Imagine a lone Egyptian boat, its reed hull gliding along the Nile under the gentle push of a late afternoon breeze. A centuries-old question hovers in the dusty air. How can we harness something as restless as the wind? And yet, harness it they did. For these early river navigators, wind was both an unrelenting puzzle and a precious ally. It gave them something no pack animal could provide, a means to travel faster and further, turning the banks of the Nile into gateways of commerce. Farmers discovered that dependable breezes meant they could trade surplus grain in distant markets. Generals realized it meant they could move armies across seas. Philosophers came to see wind as a metaphor for unseen power. In that ancient moment we catch a glimpse of a remarkable pattern. Nature's constraints, like shifting seasonal winds, don't just frustrate us, they push us to invent. A sturdy sail or a new rigging technique can mean the difference between isolation and expansion. And once that door of possibility is opened, the results quickly ripple outward. Thanks to wind-propelled shipping lanes, not only grain but also ideas and religious beliefs began traveling overseas. Commerce thrived, empires rose, and cultures blended. In short, the wind did more than move boats. It quietly steered the course of entire civilizations. Now journey with me to Persia and medieval Europe, where a different sort of wind-powered marvel began spinning its way into daily life. Step into a small village at dawn. You hear creaking timbers above the fields of wheat as massive blades slowly rotate against a pink sunrise. This is the windmill, an invention that stands at the crossroads of nature and necessity. At first, these clanking machines ground grain, a life-saving task that freed families from back-breaking hand-milling. But soon people realized windmills could do more: pump water, crush seeds for oil, even saw timber. They became an evolving tool in a feedback loop. As windmills improved, crop yields soared and trade expanded. As society's needs grew, more sophisticated windmills were built. This wasn't just a matter of convenience. It fundamentally altered social structures. People who had once been tied to manual labor could now specialize in weaving, metalwork, or commerce. The wind, in essence, was building communities from the ground up. That brings us to the grand stage of maritime exploration. Picture the proud silhouettes of lateen-rigged caravels from Portugal, or the tall ships of Spain and England setting forth from their bustling harbors. By the 15th century, the ancient mastery of the sail had reached new heights. Navigators began mapping the invisible highways of trade winds and currents, learning to ride them like expert surfers on a rolling wave. These explorers soon discovered entire continents, ushering in an era of global exchange and, tragically, colonization. The principle at work here was simple but profound. Once you learn to read the wind, distance becomes less of a barrier. This knowledge spurred ever better hull designs and navigational tools like the astrolabe and quadrant that turned precarious voyages into deliberate ventures. The wind was no longer just a fickle partner. It was a system waiting to be understood, charted, and leveraged. It was the essential ingredient that allowed kingdoms to become empires, forging global trade routes that carried not just goods, but also diseases, cultural practices, and revolutionary ideas. Shift your gaze to the fertile lowlands of the Netherlands in the 18th and 19th centuries. Here, windmills became the tireless guardians of the land, pumping water day and night to reclaim farmland from marshes. What began as a trick for draining swamps took on a life of its own as a form of industrial synergy. Soon, wind-powered machines were not just critical for farming, but also for early factories milling paper, sawing timber, and pressing oil. This was a moment of convergence. Agriculture, technology, and social needs came together under the broad umbrella of wind power. Each successful application, be it draining a polder or powering a workshop, inspired people to seek new ways to harness these turning sails. In effect, windmills functioned as prototypes of the modern concept of energy systems, showing how one resource, the wind, can be channeled into multiple facets of daily life. But history took a dramatic turn when coal and steam engines roared onto the stage. For a time it seemed as though the steam whistle had silenced the wind's whisper. Trains and steamships could outpace any sail. The pungent smoke from factory chimneys drowned out the quiet labor of wind-powered gristmills. This pivot to fossil fuels changed the global landscape, unleashing the Industrial Revolution and fueling modern warfare, mass production and sprawling cities. Wind's role receded into the background, an old friend overshadowed by more reliable engines of progress. Sails gave way to steel hulls churning through the water with or without a tailwind, and windmills stood as nostalgic relics of a simpler age. Yet the story doesn't end there. In the late 20th century, new questions began to surface. Could the wind still offer us something we lost along the way? Could it help power a world that was growing alarmingly dependent on finite resources and belching greenhouse gases? Engineers, climate scientists, and visionaries found themselves revisiting ideas once seen as outdated. They discovered that modern materials and advanced aerodynamics could be paired with data-driven design to give birth to wind turbines on a scale unthinkable in centuries past. Where windmills once dotted a countryside in relative isolation, now vast wind farms emerged, some planted offshore, harnessing powerful coastal gusts that produce enough electricity to light entire cities. These turbines symbolized more than just a return to old technology. They embodied a new synergy with solar panels, battery storage, and digital grid management. It was as if wind's ancient lesson that nature's power can be converted into societal gain was being refined and reapplied for a new age. Each advance in blade design or energy storage fed back into the system, sparking further improvements. And each success stoked public awareness, encouraging communities and governments to invest in yet more renewable projects. The wind, once a whimsical ally of explorers and millers, had now become a linchpin of the global push toward cleaner energy. But there's a deeper layer still. Wind has always been a cultural force, shaping human storytelling and symbolism. From ancient deities like Aeolus and Vayu to the modern notion of the winds of change, the presence of a breeze has stirred our imaginations. We see it in the swirl of seeds that bring spring flowers, in the desert dunes sculpted by an unending dance of gusts, even in the haunting whistle against a window pane on a stormy night. When we talk about harnessing the wind, we are also talking about our desire to channel the invisible, to take something elusive and make it serve a vision, whether that vision is new trade routes, industrial flower, or renewable electricity. Today, when you hear a turbine's low hum as its blades slice the air or see a sailing regatta on a shimmering sea, think of all the centuries that led to this moment. Every turn of a millstone or pivot of a rudder taught us lessons about mechanics, design, environmental stewardship, and global interconnectedness. Wind has guided us to hidden shores, powered our earliest machines, tested our engineering limits, and made us think twice about how we treat our planet. It has witnessed our triumphs and missteps and remains an ever-present reminder that nature's forces, when understood, can enrich our lives and push our technologies forward. So the next time you feel that gentle breeze on your face, whether you're strolling by a cornfield or standing on a windy city rooftop, remember it isn't just air in motion. It's a link to an unbroken chain of human ingenuity that stretches back to ancient mariners and forward into uncharted frontiers of renewable innovation. In that single gust, we find a testament to how a simple natural force can shape entire epochs of history, and how it can continue shaping the world we have yet to discover.